Okay, 6:30. Coach, we can call the meeting to order. Welcome, Jennifer. Welcome back. We're also supposed to welcome new members, board members to the Park and Recreation Board. Is anybody new?
Well, Oscar is, who's not here?
What's Oscar's last name?
Can you spell that, please?
Birseno.
B-I-R-S.
Eno.
B-I-R-S-E-N-O.
BRI.
B-R-I.
SENO.
Rescind. Okay.
Yeah. Hard for me to read.
Well, welcome everybody else back to work. So anything else on C1? We move on from C1. So C2, I'm sorry, citizen comments. Yes, Jennifer Evans, thanks very much for joining. Jennifer, do you have any comments you'd like to share with us?
No, not officially, but unsettling, I guess. Everything has gone up in prices everywhere. I would rather pay more to keep the same facilities than to attack. That's it.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that later on in the meeting. The budget cuts, or excuse me, the hours of operation cuts. Okay, moving on to C2, approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion about the minutes? It's found in your packets.
It shows me absent, which I was. It also shows me making a motion to approve the minutes of the last. The whole paragraph may be off because it mentions approving the April minutes versus the May minutes. So it just may not have gotten substituted in there correctly.
Maybe our secretary might have been able to cut and paste in that.
I've been drinking that day.
I have to admit that on camera.
So who do you want to say made the motion to adjourn?
Somebody that was here.
Yeah.
There's a video, so we can go back and.
Yeah, we can go back.
Not done the, I might.
Is this a motion
That
to
paragraph.
adjourn?
No, this is the motion. See, to,
The minutes from last.
yeah, it was under C2 in the minutes from the last council meeting.
Yeah.
Jan Woldridge moved to approve the April 18, 2024 minutes.
Oh, that was me. I think it was
The
me.
motion is seconded by Adrian Young. Motion carried.
But it should be someone else in the May minutes.
Your minutes,
I was gonna say,
Stephen, because it's not your error, I think it's mine, because I go over the previous minutes and I cut and paste.
Jennifer making the motion and David
Yeah, I
seconded.
thought I made that
Okay.
motion.
so Jennifer made the motion and I seconded
You
it.
seconded it. yes.
Okay. Good catch.
I think I was excited. It was my first motion.
You'll cut and paste and get strikes again. We've all done it. Amanda. Anybody else, any other comments on the minutes as in your packet?
I'll make a motion to approve them as amended.
Okay,
I second it.
Seconded, Parker?
I Margaret did,
Adrian.
Jennifer did.
It wasn't
Pick
me
a
this
name. You got the- I jumped in there.
the minutes are approved. Vote, sorry. Vote on approving the minutes. Sorry, guys, I'm rusty. I'm new at this, sorry. Please be patient with me. So, go ahead and vote to approve as is. Minutes, you did? As amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, so let's go to C3. Election of officers. Any comments? Anybody wants to take on any particular positions?
I would like to make a comment that I'm on your duty as secretary, so I would be extremely appreciative if somebody would volunteer to be the secretary.
Like Jennifer.
Like
That's-
Jennifer. She tried to last year. And
I think last year, it was quiet, and I said I could if I needed to.
that's good enough for me.
So Jennifer, you'll be willing to be the secretary? Excellent.
And Jennifer, I'll do for you what Barbara was so kind to do for me. I'll take care of this.
Okay, cool. So I can start next meeting. That's awesome.
Well, Barbara did that for me.
Thanks. Barbara.
Unless
I did
somebody,
it for 5 years.
I do it at work all the time.
unless somebody wants to be chair, I'm willing to volunteer for chair, unless somebody else wants to be chair. So I'll be chair. Who would like to be vice chair?
Yeah, we will do the motion and move.
Okay. Can we just do one big motion for all three? Once we decide on our, can we just make a motion to do all three?
Yeah.
You could do one for all three.
Okay, so.
As
anybody
long
want
as
to be
there's no
vice chair?
big distance, so yes.
Yes, unless, correct.
I would actually volunteer for vice chair.
Okay,
I guess. Yeah.
so we need a motion to have Dave Jones serve as chair, Steve serve as vice chair, and Jennifer serve as secretary for the 2024-2025 term.
Yes, you all have to motion. We're all named in that.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to C4.
Okay, board, Mark Moffett, our parks superintendent, is at a conference. So I will step in to just kind of, he's been working real hard with a couple different vendors. And it's got some examples, and and they're in your packet, and then Jessica's able to show them on the screen as well. But the event, we, from a staff perspective, really like, it's called Ventureville. That's a different vendor than we looked at the last meeting. But we also have an example from Game Time as well. So really all we're looking for is just kind of a sense of, because we took some of the comments from the last meeting and definitely looked at kind of the treehousey type theme, but they each have different perspectives. And so just wanted to kind of put it out to the board on either of these, good, bad, and, but from a staff perspective, I think we'd lean more toward the Adventureville, just because it seems like it kind of goes to what we discussed at the last meeting. It's a little more, It's unique and clubhousing. very, very clubhousey, correct. But I'll open it up to any comment. Yes, ma'am.
Or do we have any kind of even ballpark price?
The cost on this we're looking at is probably gonna be in that 250,000 for
Well, either one.
either. Yes, they're both approximately the same cost. So
Is that
yeah, cost is really, and these are all these vendors are on on cooperative contracting. So we get the lowest cost on these. And so, of course, these will all have to eventually go back to council for approval because the purchase is over 50,000. But we definitely, as part of that, want to have at least some comment back from the board on kind of some of their feelings on either one of these.
Well, and one of my questions, because Game Time talks throughout about a custom palette color. Is that adding to the cost?
No, I mean, yeah, the custom color, correct. No, we can, these guys can pretty much do whatever colors that I think we like this palette. It's very similar. Both palettes are very similar to each other because they're kind of the nature clubhouse theme. So, To me, the Game Time comes across as generic, but with the forest coloring. Correct. It's, I can see that playground in just about any suburb in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's just the components have been spray painted a different color, whereas the Adventureville, it just has a little bit more appeal
if we go back to our previous discussion about being a clubhouse and somewhere for kids to congregate and somewhere for kids to get excited about going to and being.
So, Robert, thanks for doing this, because thanks for going out and get a second bid, if you will, from what you showed us before, because I know the previous bid, there was several different choices, but it was always one supplier, so thanks for going out to another supplier. So the question is, if I remember correctly, the other company, the Game Time company, we've used them in the past.
Correct.
What's our been experience, or do we have experience with this, Adventureville?
Adventureville is we haven't worked with this, vendor we have some of their equipment in our system. We've typically, over the last couple of years, have pretty much been exclusively Game Time. And the way the cooperative pricing typically works, because it's good that they're basically pre-bid, because it's hard to specify and write specifications for playgrounds, because everybody uses different manufacturing techniques, and even though they all have the same base standards they have to meet in regards to how they manufacture. So that gives staff and gives cities really good flexibility in that they can kind of go choose who they want, because basically the pricing is all very similar. And it's the same pricing we would get, that Carrollton gets, that, Plano gets, that kind of thing. So really, it's more of then it boils down to kind of what it is you want to see in the park. So that's kind of why it's really, and I think Barbara was correct. You kind of have two pretty different styles. Game Time is not as, to me, it's not as unique as maybe the Adventureville is. And the vendor that does Adventureville he's been really good to work with so far. I know Mark's really enjoyed the back and forth, and the guy's been very responsive as well. So I definitely think he wants our business, and I think he'll do a good job, just because this vendor hasn't been used in a while, and I think they'd like to come back and do more business in town. So.
And durability is similar on.
Very similar, yes. We actually like their products probably better than Game Time at this point. The way I know Mark, and he can maybe speak to this at another meeting, but I know the posts and different, the way that it's constructed, he likes their product a lot.
Well, he said some of the product would be actual cement, like the.
Yeah,
these
yes, ma'am.
Rock steps and the.
They're actually, correct. They're actually giving us a little bit of leeway on some of because the concreted pieces that are shown in here are a little more expensive. So, but they have alternatives that we could get in plastic, but they're solid.
Mhm.
So what Mark really doesn't like, and out in the field, anything that's that hollow. So if you see the step and stuff, if it's hollow, that becomes really vandals can really, they don't last as long. So the pieces at Adventureville, they're more, even if they're not the concrete, they would be the solid pieces, correct? Yes.
So just from an aesthetic point of view, I think the Adventureville just looks a whole lot better.
I think it looks different. I think it sets it apart than.
Well, the setting
other
in
one
the
is
park
just-
has those woods, so that just kind of looks like it belongs in the woods.
Correct.
Understand the signage on it, I would remove that.
The wrong way.
Yeah, it looks like
That-
somebody has stolen a street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. You don't need to promote stealing street signs.
Crossbar too, the ladder, the angular one just makes it kind of look run down.
Yeah.
I know they're trying to look for
What it can do.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad we asked, but the question was asked about the price, because my initial impression was I would have thought that Adventureville would have been more expensive than Game Time. But you're basically saying it's
They're
the same
very
price.
close in cost.
So just from an aesthetic point of view, I'd say Adventureville looks better, but once again, we defer to you guys. It sounds like you guys are kind of leaning towards Adventureville also.
And we can make tweaks if there's the signage. We could have them do the treehouse where maybe is a little more, not as rigid as the Game Time, but maybe not as the other way either, maybe kind of have a happy medium on that to kind of give it a little bit. We can see if they have any other different looks for that, the treehouse specifically.
Luckily, it's fine to make it. I really like the design of this one.
Yeah.
The first one. Yeah.
The Adventureville?
Yeah, because it's got two different kinds of slides. Which is fun. The trees step up.
It's like a very
Actually,
ambitious
one I
kid. Yeah, it looks like a very ambitious kid. And I think that might be part of the signage is he was wandering down the street and found stuff and
But that's what we
put it
we
together.
don't want them to do that.
Yes, we don't want that to do.
So Robert, I think the consensus is that the feedback is very positive on the first one.
The
If
Adventureville?
that's what you
Okay,
guys are leaning to, then we're supportive of moving in that direction.
okay.
Do you need that?
Do you need a motion?
Yes, I think, and do we have to, I think we tabled it, right? So we'll have to remove from the table and then vote on that, and I think then you can make a motion after that.
So the first motion is to
Remove it from the table?
Make it an action item. How it says, I don't know, Dan's the,
Then it, move it. Motion.
Correct.
someone second Steve's motion to remove.
I'll
from the
second
table?
Steve's motion.
Do we need to vote on that? Okay, so all those in favor of that, or any discussion on that, removing? No, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Now the next motion is to do what?
I make a motion that we recommend the Adventureville equipment for the park.
I second that.
Okay, any discussion?
That means you would take action. Well,
All those in favor of that motion? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, now we go to C5. Budget update.
Yeah, we'll give us a second to get the, so I wanted to get with the board on kind of some of the, budget, kind of get everyone up to par on some of the budget items that affect specific Parks and Rec programs specifically. And we were able to review some of this information. We had senior advisory board last week, and so because some of these changes affect the branch connection. So we're kind of getting the park board all up to date. And what I wanted to focus on, and because I've got the agenda as just budget review, we can talk about other items as well, but the focus was going to be some of the proposed hour changes, which we have up on the screen right now, and then some of the event changes. So I'll just go through these briefly and then we can discuss, have any questions, answer any questions you might have. So of course, these are all proposed. Currently, the budget is still under consideration. There's I know there's a review. I think there's an update, a study session update at the meeting next week, council meeting. Then I believe they'll have public hearings starting for the first September meeting, and then I believe they take approval of the budget as a second September meeting. There is a budget town hall on August 27th at the library. I think they've started promotions on that, starting to get that out. So definitely, if you have any more specific questions, finance team, I'll be there. I think most of council is expected to be there as far as I know, and then city staff. So any questions that if I can get any questions answered before then, if you have them tonight, I'll try and get those. But that's just another opportunity for you to answer any questions, to get any questions answered. So if we just look at the hours, initially, we've got the rec center. What we looked at across the board was to try to get an approximate 10% reduction. And mainly we were looking at trying to reduce time. So Jessica and her team did a great job of looking at low use, our lowest use times. And that's where we tried to make the combination first. And all the intent of this was to just overall, because all the Parks and Rec functions all are a general fund funded. So, and the large, that's one of the largest, so we wanted to have the impact, all these changes impact that general fund. So in regards to the rec center, I won't go through each of the hours, but at the end of the day, I think the big changes were the Sunday hours. And then, I think we kept Saturday as is. And then we looked at closing a little earlier during the week, which we felt that 8 to 9 was definitely a lower attendance. So, a total of 9 hours for the rec center. And on the aquatics, we didn't look at any of the outdoor frog pond hours. Those remained unchanged. So all the aquatics changes are just for the natatorium, the indoor. And we looked at going to more of a split schedule where we had really low attendance in those mid-afternoon times. And then also closing on Sunday. We did adjust a little bit on Saturday as well and Friday evening. And that's a total of 14 hours for the indoor aquatics, the natatorium. And then on branch connection, we looked at, again, Saturday, Sunday, they're already closed. I think Saturday's and then Friday afternoon are kind of the largest impacts there. The Monday through Thursday schedule pretty much remained the same. And that's a total of 8 hours. And then on the library, we did a couple things there. Of course, all of you know, the library's under Parks and Rec. We basically manage the contract and assist with the facility itself. But LS&S is the library vendor that operates the library. And so we went to them looking at some changes to our contract. And so currently, we have budgeted some decreases. One of them being the hours going to, and surprisingly, and it was something I found out, their weekend times are very busy, especially Sunday. So we didn't look at their Sunday hours at all. So really, we were just looking at evening times. And so we looked at an hour reduction there. And then we are looking at some supplies as well to reduce on that end. But the conversations we've had with LS&S, the supply chain, the reductions and the hours they don't feel are going to really impact service level. That has very minimal impact on service level. So that's what we were looking at. All these we're looking at that. Is there any questions on the hour changes?
Yeah, so my initial question was, what is driving all this? What is the impetus? You mentioned a 10%. Help us understand what's.
Well, we were given the task to, because of the general fund budget, we were trying to overall reduce the general fund impact of all the departments on the general fund. So all the departments were charged with some reductions. And so one of the ways we saw as having some of those, of course, the staff is our biggest expense. Typically in any city, the personnel is going to be the higher expense. And so that was kind of how we felt we could make the biggest impact was staffing, was reducing staffing. So we looked at how we could reduce staff, how could we maybe be more efficient with our facilities. And that's what we looked first at, the usage, because if we felt like we were spending money on staff and keeping a facility open for when it didn't have the biggest impact, that was something we looked at. But overall, all these changes are to help offset any costs in the general fund. I know that the council's trying to bring down the budget in general, have a property tax decrease. And so we were trying to meet the wishes. All the departments are trying to meet that directive, is try to get us to where they can get the biggest reduction we can have.
So thank you. So once again, getting back to the driving force. So it sounds like the driving force was that city council has an objective of trying to reduce its general fund, and therefore went to virtually all the departments of the city and said, we need your help in helping us achieve this objective of, and once again, I'm going back to 10%, was the objective saying we want to reduce the general fund by 10% to everybody?
No, I think we just looked at the 10% reduction of overall in the hours to help. It was a different cost for each of these because the way these operations go, that was a different amount for each of those costs, but we felt like that was a good kind of target to get to. We didn't hit 10% on each one of these facilities. It was between, I'd say 7 to 8 to 10%. I think the biggest reduction was the natatorium overall.
So at one time of the meeting, they also sent to for the city management to look into that reduction and start looking at different opportunities where we can go and bring our services and our staffing in different aspects of our services down to save money and to have the tax reduction. That's where we start working with different departments, not just parks. Like we start looking overall at state functions and everything where we have duplication of resources. Maybe we have we're doing multiple functions that has an outcome. So it wasn't just looking at the staffing and reducing funding over there or reducing the money over there. It was an overall broader picture that we looked at. And that's where if we didn't get to 10%, Robert's right that we couldn't get to 10 cents. We are today at is it 2.7?
I believe it's 2.
Yeah, it's 2.7 cents. That's where we are. But that's where actually this discussion initiated initially, and that's where we are today.
Okay, thank you for that. And so once again, so it wasn't a 10%. It was basically saying that city council said, we want to reduce the overall tax burden on the citizens of Farmers Branch. And therefore we are asking not just parties, but everybody to try to see what they can do to help us achieve this overall objective of reducing our tax burden to 2.7%.
I have
Okay.
a comment on it though. Prices of all this went up last year and 8 to 9 o'clock in the rec center. And when I go and my husband goes, because being young professionals, that's when we can go. And we see most of the people there are young professionals. So that hits one demographic. So,
And also, if you're talking about eliminating duplicative functions and you're eliminating, those would not impact services. Those would just say, instead of you doing something and you doing something, that the work gets properly allocated. And then that the opportunity cost is now Linda has the option to be able to do something else.
Well, I think that's just an example of what other departments, as far as our department, especially with aquatics, the lifeguard, we just weren't at a competitive pay for our surrounding municipalities and even non-city related aquatics. And so we had to give them a significant increase to make it at market, to make us more competitive with other, because we were having a low turnout on hiring lifeguards, head guards, pool cashiers. And so when we did that, we're now asking for this next fiscal year for an increase in funds. And so we're not just going with a neutral budget. We're asking for that. And then the aquatic center is turning 10 years old. The building is aging. We have some underground repairs to do over there, just kind of across the board. We've got a lot of more expenditures. And so when we're going to the council and asking them to approve a budget, we are not only going for new, but like we're asking for more. So they're like, okay, so maybe one department is offering a little bit more than Parks and Recreation. So it might look a little different, but it's overall the same. We're trying to get it where if we can save a cent, great. If we can save 2 cents, great. If we get to 3, great. I think they were initially asking for a 10%, but that was a little bit unrealistic.
The original was 10 cents reduction.
10 cents.
And it was not possible. So what city management proposed is we can try to do 3 cents, but that's a try. Not necessarily we can achieve them. And reducing services was only one aspect. We went through consolidation as well. Like one of our most recent consolidation was merging the communication department with administrative services, which is also the secretary's department, which means you have the positions, but not necessarily all the positions which were duplicated in duplication resources. So not just parks, multiple different departments.
I understand.
So wherever staff could find resources to best serve our residents, our citizens, we did all of those, but we still couldn't meet 3 cents, let alone 10 cents. So we were trying to get up here because that was council's request. We could only make it here, but that still hurt us in one way or another.
So what is city council's reaction to that? If they want a 10-cent tax reduction, they're going to get a 2.7%. What is city council's reaction to
We
that?
are to see at the next council meeting.
Yeah, the last council meeting, they had kind of a breakdown of all of the different proposed cuts, including like removal of an HR personnel position entirely, reduction or consolidation of positions. So if you had like 5 people working here, they like reduced you down to 2, so you used to have a minimum so that, you know, one person could be in one area and the other person could be. There's a lot of, this is why I spoke up. Like, everything's gonna be priced, but they're trying to meet a campaign promise. Of, we're gonna cut taxes by 10%, and this is how we're gonna do it, and we're gonna reduce your usual city facilities that, like you said, like Jennifer said.
Yeah.
I think everybody in this room is going to have their property valuation increase.
Mine.
And-
my-
yes.
Next week.
And so even with a 2.7 cent decrease, our taxes are going up. And what you're telling us here is our services are getting cut. And for me, one of those cuts is absolutely mortal. I mean, it's killing me what y'all are trying to do. So
It's totally understandable.
we have a perception issue because all of us are going to end up writing a bigger check this year and all of us are going to have fewer services or restricted services.
Well, and
And we have to be very careful from the park side because we're a city and a park. And one of the reasons a lot of people moved here is because of the parks and not just the facilities part of the parks, but the Rose Garden and Dutch Village and Malin, and those are not fiscally identifiable, but they're intrinsic to the soul of this city.
These were all the factors that it wasn't easy. Like, I'll give you an example of my own department, the management, we used to be team of 3, but we're today 2. Because does it take a lot of our time? Yes, it's 24/7 commitment for 2 of us as the manager and me as the PM. But we're trying to meet objectives that are assigned to us and get down to the tax rate and reduction.
Right, but again,
Sorry,
so
forgive me.
currently it's
Say-
10% reduction based on campaign process.
Jawaria Sareen,
Can you spell her name?
JAWRIA,
JAWRIA, last name, TAREEN.
Yes.
And what is your position?
Deputy City Manager.
Deputy Secretary. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you.
I think there's gonna be an issue
I
though,
would
with the
kinda
price,
like
prices
to-
going up last year for
Yeah.
people my age. And then
One of the
reducing
things-
the hours that we go.
Yeah, all concerns from talking considered, and that's where Jessica and Robert went back and engaging technician facility hours and like Robert shared here.
But did you look at the low use of who is paying to be there? Because I pay a lot more than some of the people who can go midday.
Your midday or.
Well, first of all, this is hard on everybody. And look, you guys are just trying to you're trying to help out. You've been given a mandate, say, hey, how can we cut? And this is a proposal on how to do it. So don't take this as us saying, you know, any bad's happened. We're just trying to understand.
Sure.
Well,
I
I
have to
get
confess,
all this feedback from my gardeners and they're just absolutely devastated. And it's not just my gardeners, it's people you meet walking through the gardens and people you meet elsewhere. And it's like, why?
But the question I had when I first looked at it was okay, so once again, between 8 and 9, how many people actually come there? And then the question would be, if we close at 8 instead of at 9, then how many of those people who usually work out during that time are gonna quit and therefore no longer gonna be members and therefore not pay in? You know, to the extent, I don't know how you could really tell that. Or for example, on Sunday, how many people actually come between 1 and 4 on Sunday, whatever that is? And then if so,
Do you
is there
have
any way
those
to figure
traffic
out those people, how many members would that affect if they left? Because then you're talking about less revenue coming in because yes, we're opening less, but then, and I just don't know how you could, to the extent you can actually calculate that.
Sunday made total sense to me because it's 3 hours and you get to close a whole day of not opening.
Yeah.
So that one had less heartburn for me. I don't like it, but that one makes total sense. You close a facility that was open for only a few hours. You never turn the lights on, you never do any of that. But losing both of those, the very end of the evening and a complete weekend day, that's hard.
Yeah, I can understand Friday because a lot of people don't.
That's another one that I go there at that time, but I can see Friday.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing I think we need to think about, which affects everybody, there are a lot of citizens out there who are saying, keep my money and keep my facilities.
Yep. Yep.
They are not interested in a 2.whatever% tax. I know there's some who are, but there are plenty of people out there that are not happy that in order to get the 2.7%, if I'm quoting correctly, they don't really want, they'd say it's such an insignificant amount that they'd rather have the service. And I hope council and everybody is hearing that and paying attention to that.
Remind everybody to go on August 27th to the budget town hall. Anybody that's complaining about it, like, 'cause shutting down the citizens collection center is another thing that they have on the table. I think that's ridiculous. They're wanting to extend the life, the sanitation, but.
Atlanta.
So have they, like, I know that they've already cut some of these hours for certain employees. It sounds like they've already done some like, allocation of consolidating goals within the departments and stuff like that. Are they, and there's still discussion going on about, sounds like they're already moving forward with things that they decided to cut.
The consolidation of all discussions were, this was one thing that we were always into that, consolidation is one piece. That is not correctly, but as for these facilities, these are just proposed changes, and I think with progress in here is looking and taking feedback and are you going to.
I thought there were Facebook posts about.
No, this is what, no, everything has to be approved by council.
Those
These
group
hours are,
that's aquatics and we do that every summer. So we have college kids, lifeguards that go back to school. And so we don't have enough lifeguards in-house to be able to run our outdoor operations. And so we do this every single summer. It's nothing new. Mhm.
So I got a question. So, and thank you you guys have done a lot of work on this and, I know you're very thoughtful about doing this. And the question is, this is just our stuff that affects Parks and Rec. So in this objective for the city council to reduce by 2.7 cents, this 2.7 cent tax reduction, what impact will that have on police? So for example, Terry Lynn ran on this whole campaign of hiring a bunch more police and having a whole bunch more police pulling people over for speeding.
They weren't
So what,
Or fire.
any other departments weren't touched besides police and fire?
There was a lot of things that were touched. I sent you a text message that has a link to the last week.
No, I'm just, look, this is probably my fault. I haven't been going to all these meetings, what's going on, but I'm just curious if anybody knows if there were any other departments there besides.
what I would encourage is to go look at the proposed budget and that kind of outlines what how the effect is on the other departments. Our goal here is to try to get you guys updated on
No, we
Parks and
appreciate
Rec specific things.
What
Yeah.
feedback did you get from the senior board on the branch connection change?
I mean, I think they were similar feedback that you all get. I mean, I think there's definitely some disappointment, but there wasn't a lot of, I think because theirs are, I think their changes are pretty low impact.
Very low. During those times
They didn't have
for
Saturday,
the branch connection,
was not an
there's
issue.
not many people at the facility during that time frame. As far as we pulled ActiveNet. So when you go in and you're a member, you have to scan your membership or get the perks of the day pass. So that's what we reference our numbers off of. There was very little movement on those days. Whereas, yes, the recreation center or the aquatic center, which is next to that one, that kind of in the middle daytime, you maybe had 0 people in the pool, but you have to have 2 to 3 people there in case someone comes, or you have
Typical lunchtime.
or you have 1 to 2. Yeah. And so we didn't want to cut early where the working families couldn't take their kids for after school swim lessons. And so we're kind of looking,
About branch connection.
yes. So the branch connection, little to no movement.
Mhm.
And then next is now the aquatic center where, again, that middle time frame. And then the recreation center, which, yes, it's kind of always has foot traffic, especially after the downstairs renovation. We just found that in the evenings at 8 to 9, there is, one demographic. However, there just isn't as much traffic as you see from the earlier 5:30.
It's also a high value demographic, and I think we need to take a second look at that.
Correct.
Yeah, because my husband was already like, if that happens, I can't get there in time, so we don't need our membership.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't go on Sunday and I can't get there through the week, why pay the family amount
Mhm.
being in our thirties? Where
Sure.
you hit a certain age and then suddenly there's no price.
Yeah.
Almost. So,
And I have a question about Friday Branch Connection, being a part of a group that at least a couple of times a year is there until 1:30-ish with our normal activity.
Yeah, I got an email today from Bonnie on Bridge Group.
No, this is Farmers Branch Women's Club.
Oh, okay.
And a couple of times a year we're there, but our timing is such that we're not all gone and out of there by one.
Yeah, I had an email from Bridge today, Sue, so we'll talk internally on how we can get those groups.
And
Because
that's,
the rec center's open too, in regards to like, when you look at, I think that's the other thing is when it comes to Branch Connection on Saturdays, because the rec center's open on Saturdays, I think that helps. If there's a large fitness element that would use, I think Branch Connection, but they can come here, a lot of them,
Yeah.
so.
Ours specifically, we can't fit in here to do.
Right.
yeah, and that's,
Events.
yeah, because I know they used to be here at the rec center too, and it reminds me of kind of like when we have rentals. And so you have a rental that books until 5 p.m. on a Saturday, we close at 5. And if they take a little bit extra longer, the staff just kind of hangs around and then we just leave the setup until the next day. So I don't foresee that being a problem. Jackie and I can work through that together. But yeah, that should be fine. And that's the same case, not just for that group, but for any groups that are there. We're not gonna have like a hard 1 o'clock, you guys have to go. I mean, the full-time staff will still be there. We'll send part-time staff home to have that cost savings, but the full-time staff can still be there and assist you guys with getting out.
When will these changes go through, if they are accepted and if?
So if the timeline is that if they're approved in their budget, the numbers are part of the budget process. If that's approved, we're actually discussing now kind of the timeline for rollout. That was one of the things. I'm glad you asked the question. So we are just beginning we're kind of trying to do it on all of you know, our activities come out in the activity guide. And that new guide comes out for September, October, November is coming out. So what we're looking at is the December issue. So we look at December 1st as being a start for these hours. So we'd have ample time to get public updated and aware of any changes that we'd be having. So that's kind of the time period. So there would be a little carryover into the new budget year, but we just weren't able to we don't have approval to put anything in the new guide going out. So it's just a nicer transition that way. That way we can put it all in the new guide coming out in December.
And I want you guys to understand, Robert and I, we hear your concerns. We understand your frustrations. This has already been rolled out in the budget that has been given to council and posted online for the residents. And so we're not in the preliminary stages where we're having discussions. This is kind of already there. So now it's up to the council to approve. And so that's why it's important for you guys to come to study sessions where you can have citizen comments, but also the council meetings that are super important. And they have citizen comments. Go to the budget town halls. You guys are more than welcome to reach out to your representative of your area district, because they would be the ones to then make any changes. We've already submitted this, so we can't really go back to the drawing board unless we're given that directive from our city manager's office, who gets the directive from council.
I know we appreciate that. So we spent a lot of time on these hours. We want to talk about the next page.
Sure. The events, the goal with the events, and it's just, we want to just kind of brief you all. We've had some changes on our events team and events in general. So we really want to focus from a department on the 3 large events for next year, which would be the Gateway to the Globe event, Independence Day, and Christmas. And then we've got some smaller events in there like Fish and Fun, some of the dog park events, some of the items at Branch Connection. We've got Veterans Day. That's definitely a good one. So the only big event that's going to go away next year that we are going to have Bluegrass this year, but we will move away from Bluegrass event as a department event for Parks and Rec. I think the tourism group is looking at trying to reformulate that event to a smaller indoor event at one of the hotels for 2025. But we'll finish out this year just as it's always been. So it's really, I think we've got a really good coverage and our focus is on some of these larger events. And we still have quite a few events that each of the facilities are doing as well. So I think this one was more of actually more of a reorg internally. It's something that needed to be done. We have kind of been, I think for many years, the department and this is before I got here, but going in a lot of different directions in regards to projects and events. And it was becoming a strain on the department in general. And so I think this is a way more manageable amount of events for the department to handle and have really, really good events. And these are I think some of the bigger impactful events like Christmas and Independence Day are two events that we really like getting behind. So, and like Fishing Fun, I know that was definitely an event. I think I actually think that's one of our best events, to be honest with you. It's just it's a good event. So as long as the weather cooperates, it's a good one. And we had I think the success of Gateway was really impressive this past year. And we want to, definitely, I think that's a needed event for the community. So I think it's a good place for us to be. And I think it still offers a lot to the community.
So these events, does that include removal of music nights, like tour?
Yes, so that's the other one is some of the yes. Didn't drive live events. We did remove those, correct.
But the reason for that is because they're suspending it because of the road diet construction that they're doing along that parallel.
Well,
we relocated to the historical park because of that construction. But our numbers have drastically just went down. So now that we have more space, we were thinking, okay, let's continue to have them. We'll bring in more people, but the numbers were very low. And so it's not a forever thing. It's more of okay, let's regroup, let's give this money back to the general fund, and let's see what it is the community wants. Let's get some community engagement and conversations going to see what we can bring back and my events team to be able to propose for the next fiscal year budget. And so does that look and feel different? Do we still want a concert in the park type of thing? Didn't drive live? Sure. What can that look like? What do you guys want? And so then we take y'all's feedback, we take the other board's feedback, and we go to the drawing board with my team and say, okay, what can we do? What can we provide? Can we get grants? Can we get volunteers? Can we get some type of special event task force where they don't have to commit to coming every single month, but they can provide us with feedback, and we can kind of like the multicultural task force did with the multicultural committee event. And so we want to do the same thing. So it's just kind of like a pause. And trust me, it wasn't easy, especially for us who are just kind of like you guys, diehard Farmers Branch fans. And so we eat, we live, and we breathe Farmers Branch. Very, very difficult to make these decisions. But I'm choosing to, persuade my team and seeing that just means we're going to come back better and stronger. I don't foresee us staying low like this and not having, we're a city in a park. We're known for our great events. One thing my team's looking at doing is, possibly for Independence Day, making it resident and guest only. Now that we have the event center there, we noticed there was just a lot of traffic that the residents didn't even really fit in the park. And so how can we make this where it's exclusive to our residents, where we have a couple of food trucks that if you're a Farmers Branch resident and you show your driver's license, you get free dessert, you get a free tacos or nachos or whatever it may be. We want to provide and bring that community back to Farmers Branch instead of, and it's also a place where you guys can see your neighbors. You go to Independence Day and you're sitting next to someone from Arlington. That's not a bad thing, but these are general fund taxpayer events. And so how can we bring the residents in Farmers Branch back to the focus of all of our events?
Getting upon that too, though, the expanded use of that new facility at the historical park, there's gonna have to be some discussion of putting in like a small parking garage nearby where you can get the local impact of that using like a horizontal footprint that's nearby, because you're gonna have like ADA compliant transportation between that building and.
So they've already started on all of that.
Yeah.
It's already started, yeah, because it's needed, parking's needed.
So going back to Denton Drive Live, and I know we relocated the location where it was at the historical park. One event that was very, very well attended was the one that had the Elton Johns.
Yeah.
and the Beatles.
Yeah.
That was packed.
Incredible.
Mhm.
In fact, the only feedback I had was we didn't have enough food trucks there to do with the amount of people there, just because it was just packed. And then I went to some of the other ones where there weren't as many people, and, you know, I know how hard it is to try to get acts that, you know, you're gonna, and also get the sense you're trying to appeal to different demographics.
Yeah.
Why do people flock to the Beatles and the Elton Johns, but not show up at the other? I
It was
don't
a
know.
perfect night. Yeah, but the weather was perfect for it, and that wasn't the case for the next.
Yeah, because I was there at that one. I was like, oh my God.
But it was
Yeah, the
great.
next one.
Yeah, but
Has
still.
anyone talked with Josie Records about maybe doing something? Because they bring the live bands on site, which just kind of royally messes up Belly Creek and the frontage road.
Mhm.
But maybe there might be some opportunities for some synergies between the city and Josie Records.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
I have a question. Is there anything else like the community garden?
Oh, we're gonna talk about the community.
I mean, I don't see like a community garden on here,
It's,
but is there anything else that's?
No, there was some discussions regarding, the Rose Garden, but Rose Garden is not gonna be affected. That's not part of this budget. Community garden, the one thing that we are looking at is, supporting, councils want to support the payment, the water for the garden. And that would be the limit of city involvement in that. So, that's what we put in the budget, and that's what's on tap for this.
There's no other.
But other than that, it's, yeah, pretty much.
and unfortunately, that means that the existing gardeners who don't have that expertise need to set up a 501c3 and set up some sort of structure to come up with funding for materials and set up some structure for vetting new gardeners. How are we going to get the trash off site? There's all sorts of logistical things that are not addressed with the city pulling this rug. And the city pulled this rug and gave us, and I'm gonna say us right now because I'm the master gardener who's the coordinator for this. And I got 50 people looking at me with, what are we gonna do now? I've never set up a 501c3. And it's just like, on top of, when I took over that garden, it was a bit disheveled, to put it nicely, and we're getting it to a point where it's not that anymore. And then all of a sudden, we're having the rug pulled out from under us. And I still don't know what's in the $16,000 in labor. Although we've asked and then we're told, go look at the thing. Well, it's an allocated number. I can't come up, looking at the city's ledger and come up with the
We can,
the allocated number. But again, we've asked and we get a thing from the city saying, well, it's $16,000 and look at our ledger.
okay.
And it's just, these guys are coming to me and I'm getting questions from 50 people
Sure.
and I'm getting literally, it's coming through in my voice, desperation from 50
Sure.
people.
Yeah.
I'm reading articles about how successful community gardens are in, South Dallas, coming up with 100 and 200 pounds for their food bank. We do 2,200 pounds. And that's 25% of our yield theoretically. So we're
Yeah.
producing somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 pounds of organic produce for the City of Farmers Branch residents and some local
Yeah.
people under the umbrella. Asking honestly very little of the city. I mean, the guys today, I had to send something to Ben because we had some breaks in the irrigation
Let's
and
let's
it's
set up a
just,
meeting, a follow-up, but let's also put this on a future agenda item.
So focusing on tonight's agenda. We said last time to put it on this one, and didn't make it.
Okay, okay. We'll look into that.
I told the gardeners we would be discussing the budget tonight. Unfortunately,
Okay. We'll look into that. We'll definitely get it on the next agenda. We'll have Mark here as well. And then we'll get as much as we can. So the entire board is kind of in the loop and on the same page, and hopefully we can get all of your questions answered. If there's anything specific
Again, I
that you
have
want
10
to.
years of budget background. I can scrub a budget with the best of them. You tell me what's in that $16,000.
But yeah,
And
let's
the
set up a
additional
meeting.
X number, because the materials are actually difficult, because I'm told that when we ask for fertilizer, they just kind of go over to the warehouse and take it out of existing stores. So it's not like they're going to BMI and buying me a 40-pound bag.
Well, I think one of the issues too was the fact of that, and I'm new to this too, Barbara, so I mean, but I would just say one of the challenges is that I know there is an agreement with the church, and I think that's part of, one of the concerns council had is that they're supporting something that's not on city property. I mean, I'm just putting that out, but there's an agreement with the church, so I know that takes care of that.
But the city went to the church. The church didn't go to the city.
Right.
I was on that committee.
Correct.
Started, and when they came, I can tell you, our director and I went
Right.
to many sites to look and see where it could be. And they came and said, you know, would you do this? Because we really are the sites. That was a city request that we put, not us, church. And one of the reasons that our church was so willing to do this is because of the amount of food that we give out of each garden, and to me, is we are a community city, and when we start taking away community, then we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose the long run. It's a little we budgeted, we can pay the people more. But when we start losing these, and I know 2 years from now, and you don't hear me talk very often. My place in here, but it is my place now to let you know about the garden and why it is important to the city. And I hear, and what's happening to your city? Barbara, all did this, and that's a wonderful project. Why are they doing this? I can't give them a reason. I can't say, well, they don't think it's that important. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Well, then you go into penny wise and pound foolish, and you look at the number here for what, again, is given in 8 to 10,000 pounds. Some people in Farmers Branch are in a food desert. It's a difficult grocery. I don't grocery shop typically in Farmers Branch except for Cox. And I'm doing okay. There are people in the city who have a hard time, and there are times, you know, we're late up to MetroCrest, and we get out of the car and people want our stuff because it's really, really good stuff.
So great discussion. So we're gonna put this garden on the discussion for next meeting.
But is that
I
too late?
apologize. No.
Well, yeah, I didn't realize it was an item. I'd have put it specifically. I mean, I figured the budget update would cover any questions, and we're going over it now. But I didn't have anything specific for community other than we just talked about it during the budget update. But we can add that as a specific item on the next one for sure.
And so
And if there's any
you're wanting
questions,
to know
don't
what
hesitate, let us know.
exactly, again, the
Well,
16,000.
When they were originally going to cut the whole thing, it was 33,000.
Correct.
And then we were told that it was like 16,000 labor, which I don't know what we're getting for $1,200 a month labor. And $7,000 to $8,000 in water, and the balance is in supplies. And you know, they're talking about plants and whatever. Well, all the bedding plants this year, I started at my house on my dime. We bought 3 trees, one of which is dying because. But that's it. So, you know, $300 in trees. So I'm trying to figure out where these numbers came from.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of them came from, we have a system that when the guys log their hours and time, that's how we keep track of that. And I think that's a lot, other than we also have water costs and then some of the supply costs. So I think
Again,
that's where we came
pushed
up
the
with the
city
numbers.
for locks on those spigots, and our water usage has gone way. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that the gardeners have done because we are very, very aware and want to provide sustainability and we want to be very concerned about what we're doing out there.
I got you.
Good discussion. Anything else on this particular part of what we're talking about here? We'll talk about the gardens next.
I would just encourage all of you to definitely, if you have any other questions for us, don't hesitate, let us know. Go to the budget workshops coming up. And, yeah, because that's what they're having them for, so.
And start with all those information for the problem and then start presenting. So start and you're considering the fabric and then start presenting. You're getting ready to ready to put the numbers down, start seeking feedback, and it's all public, all we do it in regular session. Second session, we present to the council. It's important for all of you to be part of that. Your feedback is important. That's why the city has never done the this is our second time. And this is a really good time to seek feedback.
And
Thank you.
sometimes you're not feeling like our feedback isn't.
That's true.
That's your job to make us know it is. We don't feel it. Anyway. Just not that important.
Thank you for coming today. Thank you very much. Anything else on this particular piece before we move on?
How do you know, when she mentioned synergy, one that I had forgotten, I thought about was maybe synergy with Firehouse Theater for an outdoor play out there where you do the concerts
Okay.
for future years. I go to Shakespeare Dallas all the time. I
Oh, yeah.
donate to that.
Mm,
It's a lot of fun.
yeah, outdoor play.
And they might want to spotlight something to get people to
At
come
the
and watch.
amphitheater by City Hall, that'd be
Yeah.
a great place.
So
So this section,
possibility for future years.
thank you. This C5, there's no voting or anything required. This is just basically discussion.
Just an update, correct?
Okay, so now let's go to C6. You see Parks and Recreation Department project update.
I've just pulled that up. We'll just run through some of these we've kind of already discussed when we talked about the playground. So we talked, the first slide is about Dutch Village. We kind of talked about that earlier. Now that we have some direction on, from the board on the theme and things like that, we'll start putting a quote together and start working that through the system and take that to a subsequent council meeting. I'd say we're probably looking at, either sometime September, or early October, and then hopefully get approval and then try to get it on order. Typically, the new playgrounds take, I would say, it just depends, but 8 to 10 to 12 weeks. And so we're probably looking at installation probably early next year, probably somewhere in there. We do have to do some rehabilitation. And Mark mentioned to me where the playground goes. They've got dirt work and things they do get it ready. So that gives them ample time to get a lot of that. So if you see any work going on over there, that's probably what we'll be doing. We'll probably be doing that a lot for some of our winter works projects. So has anybody got any questions on Dutch? On John Berg, I did not get a update from I know a couple things. I haven't got any updates on the restroom. I know it's dry enough to put the septic system in, so I don't know where our holdup is on that. I haven't heard anything. And then I think we mentioned at the last meeting, we did have some damage from the water on the overlook.
Yeah.
We were able to get the contractor to come out and at least take down the overlook that we felt was going to fall into the river. So we just got a design back from Dunaway, who actually designed the park, on kind of how we can retrofit the overlook. And they're working on a quote for us, and we're also working with our insurance company as well. So I think we will get some insurance proceeds similar to Dutch Village.
Would it make sense to move the overlook to the pond?
Well, I think what we're looking at is just moving the overlook back far enough where we feel like it's not going to be an issue. And so I think we kind of found a happy medium. I'll have Mark speak more to that at the next meeting, but I think we're gonna, I think we found it where we're gonna push it out far enough to where it still meets the need. It's just not gonna be in danger of getting, and granted, we had some heavier than usual rains. I don't think that's gonna be how we have rains every year. So I think we were trying to look ahead a little bit to see, we didn't want to put it back where it was, that's for sure.
So did the piers, did they not get the piers deep enough?
I just think it had a lot to do with some of the erosion control that was used. And it was a little bit, I still feel like it may have been just still too close on the initial design. Because I just think we probably should have had it a little further back to begin with. But I think it was a combination of design, the piers, the rain. So it was a little bit of area. I don't think we can put it on one definitive thing.
I just didn't know if they need to work at, if it's an engineer to really sign off on, there's been places like my brother, when he built the house on Lake Whitney, the engineer said, you gotta go down,
Yeah,
way down, and he was having a cow.
But then a house fell into Lake Whitney.
right.
Yes, the house, and it was down the street from it, is the one that they finally burnt. So that, it was a mess. Point being, did we not get
That I don't know. I wasn't involved in that
engineers?
construction.
Just the
Yeah.
depth. Water affects it too, so you might have to use pilings instead of real deep piers.
I think they did the helical piers for
Yeah,
the supports. I think, but I'd have to check with
They did
Mark.
the helicals on the boardwalks. I'm not sure they did the helicals on
For
the,
Overlook.
overlook.
Betting the areas because. of the
Jan wants to
water.
say something.
Well, if they're going to come back, are they gonna go up a little bit higher too, to be able to see over?
We'll bring you back to design. Like I said, I can't remember. I just remember that my initial look, it just was gonna be further back from where the current location is. Basically, I think where they've taken it off. If you go out there regular basis, I think where it is, that's probably where it'll end up being, and we'll just have a new platform in that area. But I don't remember if it's gonna go up.
So I'm just
Really big
wondering what
piers and did
vegetation-
them on angles and stuff. I don't think it's helicals under that.
And,
structure.
when you looked at some of the damage, it just was, I don't think that they went, whatever they did, they didn't go deep enough because it didn't take much for that erosion to start. And those first two piers closest to the river they were,
And you might circle back to and see who has historical information, because I know that John Berkeley's flooded a lot in the past. And so that might give you some information about rains and.
Well, it's a floodway as opposed to a flood zone.
There's no
So
way
it's
to-
guaranteed to flood.
it's.
But I mean, just to know the volume of water that's been going through there in the past.
Try and bring that design at the next meeting, so you guys can see that. Oh, did I have two of
So
those?
you're having the same designer look at it?
We had Dunaway, who did the initial, kind of give us because they felt like they needed to give us some kind of fix, right? So that's what we're, and then we're actually pricing that out with the contractor we used as well, just to see kind of where we are, price wise with it. So, but I think we're gonna get some funding back from the insurance company. So I hope we
Are
won't
we
be.
gonna get a second opinion
Yeah,
on
an
the,
independent.
Is that where you're going? Okay.
Yeah, I just work at a structural firm that would actually do remediating stuff, and that's something that they could look at, even just looking at the plans and the geotechnical design, and then say, this was what was not.
We'll check the structural. I'm assuming the structurals looked at it, but I will confirm that. Yes, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I just want to give you a heads up as far as like structural foundations and stuff like that, in the city, that we're behind. Pretty much all of Farmers Branch was at some point kind of Trinity Riverbed. And so there's some areas where you hit rock and, that's amazing. There's some you hit shale and then you break through it and it's got the expansive clays. And we have to really be more diligent about the foundations that are put on buildings and residents and stuff like that, because that's, if you build a bad foundation, you're gonna have to tear down the whole thing to refix it, or to redo it, or spend a lot of money for. I cannot stress it enough. There's, like, city of Frisco and stuff like that actually has a requirement to have an engineered foundation, have an inspection. And, that gets saved to the city information. Whereas like
here in Farmers Branch, I think you'll have a wood frame inspection. If foundation, is- I think the city of Dallas, county of Dallas requires. Branches.
But I had stuff built at my house, they didn't break.
Well, it's not just inspection, I mean, like, yeah, not just, yeah, and you said no, that's right. Yeah, but like that, it comes into another issue with right next to the garden. There's a tower that is no longer being built or worked on, and to get the plans and structural designs for that in order to show it there, that it's been inspected and be able to market that to someone else to finish it, that's like a huge opportunity that's being missed.
Great
Might not have
information. Yeah. Great information.
She's an engineer.
Come to you to build my house. All right, moving on to Orin Good.
Yeah, so we finally got the zip line repaired, and cross our fingers, it's holding up and people are using it. And so, yeah, so what they ended up doing is raised the end that's closest to the creek. And that leveled it out so the drop was not as far. And what we think may have happened, I think we may have talked about it last time, but we think that then when they designed it, they didn't account for the drop in grade as you went toward the creek. And so we think maybe that's on a level, it would have not been as hard of a drop. So now that they've raised that in, I believe they've even shortened it a little bit. And then they built it up and then they put new poured in place material back out. And so far I haven't had any, it's been about a week or so. I think it's been, so we had 1 weekend of use. So cross our fingers. I think they've finally corrected. Compan's been great. They really kind of picked it up toward the end. We were waiting for the zip line improvements to be done before they've been working on other items as well that we've had issues with. And they've really, we were having about a meeting a week with them, and now we've kind of stopped that because I think we're caught up and we're doing well. So the other items that remain out there, other than now that the playground's kind of, I think, back on track, is we've got some of these items that we looked at that we want to put in by the end of the year. So we are looking at some fencing. We've got that up to bid now. Yes, sir.
I drove by there the other night. Right, fire. And there's no fencing around it right now, right?
So it's completely open. We aren't securing it anymore. We have the temporary construction fence still around it because we were still working on a lot of items, and I don't want to take that away until we actually install our new permanent fencing.
Okay, I thought everything was.
No.
Okay.
So our hope is we get the bids back next week, and we hopefully will start on that in a couple of weeks is my hope. And then we're looking at a 4 or 6 foot. We're getting prices for a 4 foot high or 6 foot fence. So we'll see how those prices come back and we'll go from there.
So people have been much more vocal about this part. I don't know, temperatures made people's anger rise, but they are very upset about the eyesore that it has become.
Well, we're
I'm hearing that a lot.
that fence is coming down. It's not a permanent. We had a call from a business across the street, and we told them, look, that's not, and we just finally got some of those other repairs done. And so we're kind of, but yeah, it's not going to be, and I understand. And I think that's the goal is to try to get that, not look like a construction site anymore, for
Yeah,
sure.
I have noticed that several times drive by there, that the park is not used nearly as much as it was when it first opened.
The heat,
It's also 100 degrees.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Once we get into really some fall temperatures, that thing we'll be busy again, but then we'll be ready. Some of the things that we had issues with before, with the parking and things like that, we've addressed a lot of that. So once the temperatures start going down, I think we'll be in a lot better position, correct?
The signage was cool. I did notice that about the parking, that.
And then we're actually adding, so there's a sign, we put a concrete, it's a metal Hoya sign that's right on the corner of Valley View and Tomfield. That's a metal, that was actually done by staff because the permanent sign wasn't put in yet. So we just got the permanent sign on order and hopefully we'll have that in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And it'll have the address to the park. It'll be lit and, so that'll actually even enhance it a little bit more. So once that's done, we get the fencing in, I think, we'll be in good shape for the cooler temperatures and be ready and hopefully, now you got all this water construction and creek construction right around it, but anyway, so we'll work through that, but.
So are there as many adults trying to do the zip line, or has the fact that it's not as daring kind of shoot off the adults?
I think adults are trying to make sure it was okay for the kids. Yeah, we gotta make sure it's good, because my staff was saying that they were, adults were on it and like, no, I gotta go try it and make sure you're good, so I think, yeah, we haven't heard any reports. Yes, and I'm glad, I would rather them try it and make sure they feel.
What's the weight rating on it?
I think we talked about it's 250 plus. I mean, it was around that 250. So yeah, the kid.
Wait, hey.
And I don't know if the kids are like, well, this is not as fun as it was before, but that's okay. It's a lot safer. Yeah, I still think so
Age
too.
appropriate children will.
Yes, I agree.
That's why I'm saying if it doesn't seem as daring, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe the adults.
It's still too hot to really
Yes,
test that
yeah.
area.
I think the issue was on the last one, it was I wrote it once and it took me by surprise. I didn't think it was gonna be that fast. And I really think, I think the first day we were open, we had one adult get hurt because it just, a lot of adults that used it. So if that happened to adults, the kids were flying all over the place. So glad we got a handle on that. Security cameras have been installed. The security lighting's been installed. We'll reevaluate we looked at a shade structure when we were staffing it, but at this point we haven't staffed it. So we'll wait and see how that looks, but for sure after the fencing goes in, but if it looks like we might not put that in. So, we also have to get, I didn't let that out here. We're working on also a network connection. So our cameras will be in a little bit easier. We have a lot of Wi-Fi things with the lighting and things like that. So we need that network connection to make that better. So, we're working on the IT on that. So any other questions on Hoya?
Yes, is the fence gonna be the inside of it?
Oh, I can't remember.
Because there's a lot of comments that I see on the.
I know we were
Well,
looking at.
actually, I don't think we can answer that because it's not during like citizen comments time.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Look into that.
Okay.
We'll bring back, we'll give an update at the next meeting and we'll let you guys know how the layout's gonna be. Okay, on venue, we basically are working with the contractor to finish that out. As you can see in the pictures, staff started installing, this is all staff, landscape in and around the facility. I believe we got everything in but the sod. So we're working on trying to get the sod in.
Yeah.
But probably get that in fairly soon here in the next couple of weeks. And then working on punch list, we've started some soft opening. We still are going to some soft opening events. And any other questions on venue?
Have we had to cancel any events?
No, I think we had one early on, but everything we've booked
We
after
had
some of the,
two quinceañeras and one wedding. Yeah,
yeah, and they all have gone really well.
two
So
residents, actually all three residents.
And the feedback from them?
Great, yeah. Lynette said it was great and they had great feedback and the mixer on Monday nights, there's some acoustic issues going on there. So we've been working with a third-party vendor to try and see if we can get that fixed.
Branch connection, we're talking a lot about that today, but we did get the council approved the phase 2 contract. We ended up having to bid it back out for phase 2. And so we just sent them a notice to proceed. It's the same vendor that did the first phase. First phase is finishing up. And so we're getting everything going again for phase 2. We're looking at a 60, I think they had 26 weeks, I think, which would have been, I think it's about 6 months. So we're looking at, so if we gave them enough, so we're looking at August, be February, March, April-ish of next year. We feel like we can be done in there. That's kind of what we're looking at. As we get into it, we'll know more.
Great before summer sunshine again.
Yeah, we're thinking,
Yes.
May-ish.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think we'll be in before summer sunshine, for summer next year for sure. Any questions on branch connection? On Mercer Park, we've got a meeting with council's got a meeting with the developer next week to kind of just go over some of the items, kind of where we are. We're finishing up a lot of the developer items, and we've got just a couple areas we've got to work through to get this to the end, to get them completed. They're anxious to start their townhome development, but the way the current agreement is set up, we've got to get all our items in place before we allow them to go and start building those townhomes. So, but we'll update. So at the picture show, they've done benches, they've done the bench pads, trails in. We're working on electrical water connections. So they're moving. They're moving. We just got to get a few items fixed and we'll be done. We already kind of talked about proposed hours. So has anybody got any questions on some of the projects? All right.
I have a question about the Arts and Culture Committee now, and I was participating in the meeting beforehand, and there's 3 sculptures that are gonna go in there that both of them board, and then we have the other 2 built that are gonna be installed.
Okay, so now we move on to C7. See recreation update.
So we have had, since the last meeting, we had our LED lights replaced out here, not replaced, but put in out here. Feedback from the managers is that it feels really safe, especially at nighttime at 9 o'clock when we close up and the staff have to leave. And then in the early morning hours as well, when the staff is arriving at 5 a.m. We have had a couple of vandalisms go on at the skate park and at the dog park. So we've got that cleaned up rather quickly this last Friday. And then, of course, you guys saw we got the bleachers in. Those seem to be working well. Super excited about that. And at the Aquatic Center, they're winding down towards their end phase of summer operations. And then we have the branch connection, which that's Senior Advisory Board, but still recreation. They just came back. So they're now back here at the Recreation Center.
Question on the bleachers.
Mhm.
On the stairs going up, there seems to be an open space on all 3. What is supposed to be there? Is there supposed to be a
It sounds like that might be stairs. I haven't seen that, but I'll find out.
chair, or a seat?
Oh, it's ADA accessible. So that way for wheelchairs. Is it
Well,
the gap you're talking
this
about?
is like a hole.
Hmm.
So it's a rectangular piece where the stairs are.
Is there a handle on
But
there?
the first piece looks like it's missing the top,
Okay.
and it's on all 3 stairs. So I didn't know if there was something else that they're waiting on or had to be fixed.
No.
So
not that
I
I
don't
know
know. I
of.
mean, it looks like an accident waiting to happen.
Okay.
So,
Not that I'm aware of. I was told it was all in place and it was a completed project. So I'll find out.
okay, thank you.
How often is the vandalism happening there?
I would say definitely monthly, at least once a month. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely higher in the summer too.
And the kids.
Now the kids are, back in school. It usually slows down a little bit.
And at JC Park, which is the baseball
Across
field
the street.
concession stand, same night, different graffiti. But it was all over the concession stand. Yeah.
Well, we walk this almost every night if we can't make the rec center by night. So I haven't noticed anybody out.
Yeah, it's young kids, but hopefully with them back in school now, everyone's on a bedtime routine.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on C7? Now move to C8. See update from board members on park program events for village attended in the city of Palmer Springs.
I thought it was good.
Enjoyed it. Lots of people out there.
Yeah, I didn't stay to do that. I left. It was too much. It was too hot, too many, there was nowhere to be. And then inside where it was AC, it was just so dead in there. It was like a stark contrast between the two, so.
I thought the music was good too. This is the first time I've been to one, so it's good. Good band. Very positive vibe. I'm pretty impressed about how they were able to get the fireworks to go off so close to the ground. Most of the time, you're way, way up high. Just, I don't know how to pull it off without setting fire.
I think it's one of the- It's one of the biggest low-level shows in the state. What I understand.
I've never seen one like that.
Yeah.
That's what I said, my first time. I really enjoyed it.
Robert, I was approached, and I think I mentioned this to you when we passed each other. Did anybody ever contact you from the new pickleball facility up here by Starbucks and Chipotle?
No.
They're interested in being involved in our city activities.
Okay,
It was actually the gentleman, I think his name is Paul. They have it written down.
okay.
He's in charge of the food for that. facility, where
Oh,
somebody
okay.
else is doing the physical pickleball part.
Got it.
And he said, we want to get involved. And so I told him to contact.
I haven't heard anything, but.
Somebody else gave him other information. I caught him. It's gonna be, I think, just north behind Starbucks and
There's that tire
Mhm.
place
Yeah.
or
Right.
auto place on the corner, and it is immediately to the north. I saw I came south on Denton Drive and I saw it under construction.
okay.
So it's just north of that intersection on the west side of the road on Denton Drive.
It's not open yet.
No,
Okay.
I think this may be my supposition, that they would like to have it functional before the national pickleball stuff gets here.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's even possible.
Yeah, I don't
Doesn't
know.
sound like it to me.
Yeah, they got walls going up. I drive by it pretty much every day going home and it's,
I haven't driven.
yeah, they're moving.
Yeah.
They're moving faster than I thought they would. I feel like the last couple of weeks, they put a lot of effort, but I don't know how, and they have a sign on the building now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a sign, a banner on the building. I think it faces Valley View
Okay.
and I can't remember the name. It's pickleball.
I don't
It's a
remember-
goofy name.
Yeah, I just can't remember what it is.
Really?
Yeah, but yeah, so it's,
We had somebody asking if it was chicken in different places. No.
no, yeah,
And so,
it's a different,
but I didn't remember the
Yeah.
name, so.
On See Click Fix, I'm seeing that we've got homeless people bathing in some of our restrooms. What's been the impact?
it's a challenge every day. So we worked with the PDE. We changed the times of some of we were having the restrooms. We have those automatic locks on the restrooms. So they lock in the evenings, I believe at 10. And then we had them opening at 6 and we had quite a few homeless, especially around Gussie. And I think even
The
at
historical
Toya.
park? The one I saw was actually in
And-
the
in a
historical.
historical park as well. The historical park ones are not on a lock. The staff will unlock those. But the ones on the outlying parks that have those auto locks, we changed the time to 8. Because that's kind of what PD wanted us to do. And I feel like it's gotten a little better since we've done that. We've actually had some of the homeless population coming in City Hall and they've kind of been, mulling around in a lot of places recently there. So, yeah, it's been an issue. We also had our first, we think either a break-in or one of the staff left the door open. We had someone in one of the buildings at the historic park, not the restrooms, but one of the buildings. And this was on a Sunday. And when our staff went to lock up, this person was there and they quickly exited when they were confronted and ended up, we called PD, Dallas PD responded and Farmers Branch. And they were able to get the guy on Ford Road and the guy was definitely had some mental issues. And so they ended up driving him home. I think he lived Cooks Creek area. And, but it just was a scary situation.
There's a often homeless encampment under the Ford Road Bridge,
Mm.
so it's right adjacent.
There's quite a few bridges. When
Yeah.
I was in sustainability, the bridge over by Squire Park, the Dart Bridge, there's quite a few under there. There's some, the bridge, there was some Midway. There's quite a few in that area too, over by the, what's the Mexican? Fuzzies.
Oh, Fuzzy's Talk.
Yeah, that Fuzzies Tacos, there's a bridge right there off of Midway. Yeah, there's quite a few that live under that one.
Well, and there's some can't think of the name of the road, but the road that runs east and west from Josie toward Denton. Yeah. No,
Villa Creek,
Webb Chapel. toward
Villa
Josie.
Creek.
Oh,
Oh,
no, north of that, up that way. If there's a big gully through there.
Maybrook, where,
Maybrook,
yeah,
Maybrook.
a lot of them are in
There's some
Maybrook,
under-
correct. Via Creek as well.
We're actually bringing an agenda item that will our city council meeting to update the resident and city council on our homeless efforts, that what city is doing, because we've been working with city of Dallas this last year. So it is time now, it's turning more into a digital approach. That business and present. It's September 10th.
Okay, anything else on CA before we move to C9, which is future items? I know we're gonna add.
Community garden.
Community garden. Anything else for future discussion?
Just the regular updates on where we are on,
The parks update, recreation update.
yeah, on the FOIA and et cetera, all those things. It's nice to be kept. And like, also on the light stuff, is all done. If they were working on the lights, I know we got notification that there would be decreased parking in the rec center because of the change out in the standards.
Yeah, they were finishing up on the south side, then there were some delays, but it should all be done now.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, should all be done now.
I haven't noticed a little thing. Hadn't been here for a little bit now.
The what thing?
The thing that was there to change it out of the machine.
What was that,
So
the
if we
lift?
get it fine.
Yeah.
the-
Oh. The machine thing.
So community garden, any other items for discussion for next time? If not,
Too early to start working on the volunteer list for fall and winter.
No, it's not.
Last year.
Yeah. So we had Halloween in the Park, but it'll be haunted houses. But yeah, I can have Jocelyn Avina. So you'll receive an email from her. And we'll get a volunteer list going. It'll be Christmas in the Branch. Would be our next big one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That and then the haunted houses.
Haunted houses, yeah. Whatever support Kim needs, she'll shoot that over to us, and then we'll get with you guys.
Just remember that was one of the first things we did when I started last year.
Oh yes, lots of fun.
The volunteer list.
so we have a motion to end the meeting.
So moved.
Can be seconded.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to
Enjoy the
keep it.
meeting. Thank you.